How can we solve downtime with all these years of experience we have in deploying, managing?
ISO 8583 system. I mean, ISO is a very complex system to write.
From your view and your experience, what's the biggest for this 4 million naira getting missing when we know that no limit to allow 4 million naira on mobile?
Chargeback dispute management has been in place for a lot.
Shut down, whether they all got admission or they got PR at the same time. And everybody, like everybody was. What are the best practices for testing financial inside? How do we avoid being Father Christmas? Right, so I've spoken about deploying to life, and I said I was going to ask a couple of hard questions. There's something else that we are also grappling with, concerns everybody, on this call, because all of us at some point would have to use a card or transfer money to somebody. And sometimes you are hanging out. Sometimes you've made a very large purchase in the supermarket, and you're strolling majestically as the big boy and the big girl you are, to hand out your card to the cashier or to the teller to say, I want to pay for all this. And then she tries it a couple of times. Sir, it's not going through. Sorry, maybe it's your bank. Maybe, do you have cash? What is the answer to downtime? How can we solve downtime with all these years of experience we have in deploying, managing? You're already smiling. So how do we solve this downtime problem?
I'll flip the question. It might be much more difficult to just talk about the answer to downtime, but I think first we look at the causes of downtime. It helps us to find an answer. And sometimes downtime, they come from different reasons. Some of them are first unauthorized changes. If you look deep down, some organizations that things, a lot of things have gone down. If the IT people would be truthful to one another, they will tell you that somebody actually made a change. So that's one thing. If you can control, then it will be beneficial. There are also unexpected consequences. It's not as if you didn't tell somebody you are making a change, but probably something just happened you are not expecting. And sometimes use of application that are end of life. All these things we call legacy system. Oh, it's a legacy system. It's easy. It's not easy to overhaul the system. It's been here for 10 years. So the legacy system can be an application itself. It can be an infrastructure. It can even be a switch. Switches that they are going to end of life and they are failing. That happen in many banks, that they just say, I won't call switch fail. And that might be a problem of you making a lot of expenses. Then unreliable third parties, you are relying on one link somewhere. They say there's a fiber port. That happens a lot of time, especially in banking. And one key problem is overdue maintenance. In those days, when you launch application, you plan for maintenance. Some are 3 months, some are 6 months. And it could come in various kind of ways. It could be patches on the server. It could be as small as restarting the server. In those days, you say, if you are running certain operating system, you must restart it regularly, or else one day it will freeze on you. And then God help you, your data center is at what's the name of that place along Lekki, and you have to run down there to go and restart a server because you can't reach it remotely. And those things will prolong downtime. And then compromise of standards, loss of experienced staff is one of those things that could be the reason why downtime is being prolonged. And scalability problem from infrastructure. Certain growth that you are not envisaging. And there were times in this country that once it's December, that payment system they are going to fail in some places. And you hear that where, because of the surge in the growth, that many people are doing transactions, things like that, they will also be part of failure. So there are many things that can bring failure, but looking at all those things critically is what you then need to find an answer to downtime itself.
What would you say is the biggest, from your view? We will not quote you. We just want to know from your view and your experience, what's the biggest reason for downtime?
Okay, so I'll pick two. One is unauthorized changes that somebody will just keep quiet, will not tell anybody that shit has happened. And the other is that the guy that knows so much about that system is not there.
As Chapat. Awesome. Okay, we'll come back to this Japa thing in the next segment, and I think that's where we are right now. So I'd like to ask you a few questions to glean from your experience. The first one is, what is the solution enterprise-wise to internal fraud? Because we can decide not to give anybody our PIN, not to click on any, link that, anybody's telling us, not to engage with any fraudster on the phone that's asking us for a code and all those things. Anytime I see a fraud reported, I try to follow the news to see what would have gone wrong. And I've seen that people have improved in their education about what they should do, social engineering and all that. And there's some inexplicable reason about why that fraud happened, like somebody's 4 million naira getting missing, when we know that no limit to allow 4 million naira on mobile. So what is the way out for internal fraud?
Okay, so there are so many sides to why fraud will happen. I mean, one of which you mentioned, it could be a compromise from the end user. It could be also that there's a system loophole that has been exploited, whether internal or external. It could also be that there are collusion from people. And when you look at every internal fraud, the people side of it is the worst kind of things you can deal with. You get to. And I used to say then that in most organizations, especially large organizations that have support that moves in and out to help people. When I was still working in the banking, I used to work with ladies. That was when I started my career, that you can be so sure that their password is written somewhere around their desk. It's either they take one small paper on the laptop or under somewhere. You can be so sure. And those kind of things give room to internal sabotage. Even when it's not you, somebody can use those password. So it starts with looking at the people side of it. You must be able to monitor your employees, especially around off business hours, activities within the system. What are people doing? Why is this person always logging on at 10 p.m.? You are not, you are a teller. What are you still doing at 9 p.m., 10 p.m. being on the system? Such trends must be monitored. And you also must be able to monitor people that appear to be under pressure. That's for internal fraud. Sometimes when I was still in the bank, you just see that somebody is borrowing money from everybody. You quickly call his boss and say, watch this guy. The rate in which he's borrowing money from everybody, he may be under one financial pressure. And such kind of people, they are not good around financials. Because when he cannot borrow from somewhere, he can help himself. That's one of the things you need to be able to also deal with. You also need to be able to maintain confidentiality of certain critical systems, either the logic or the data. So some things have to be kept within small cycles, especially if you are a developer, you are building big systems and there are critical logics that explains how the system does what it does. Things around password management, the real encryption that is in use. Such things must be kept within small cycle of confidentiality. When everybody knows it, they know how to interpret your this, your that, you are already in trouble because someone who is not supposed to be in charge will soon get access to that. Then you must very importantly automate things that people will have to do a lot. Things like chargeback, things like dispute management. If you look across many banks, chargeback, dispute management has been in place for a lot of frauds. Because there are people in charge of posting transactions. A customer just complains, wants to get his money back. Okay, send him his money. So then he has his name as one of the customers. And these people are posting 10,000 records a day, 20,000 records a day. You want to begin to look every name, every account, which one is there. It's not easy. So we must automate some of those things. We must then deal with the opportunity for people to have elevated privileges for themselves. Don't say, oh, he's our trusted developer. Oh, is our this one? No, he started this company with us. Anything that can give somebody undue access to the system, that can make him elevate himself to do and undo, you have to checkmate it. And you have to deal with also using underpaid people for critical operations. Wow. Especially when you are dealing with, yes, it has to be said. When I was supporting the FEP, if you give me contract staff, I will limit what they know, what they can do, what they can touch in the system, because a contract starts, you are paying somebody 30,000, you put him on the FEP, and maybe story that touched the heart, somebody link card, somebody. These people have so much knowledge about the system, they see money moving, and yet, so you have to also deal with such kind of thing. Yes, it's not that you can't use contract staff, but there are some critical operations that you must not put such kind of people to just limit what your exposure can be. And you must also ensure that your system enforces integrity of data, that people cannot change things when they have committed certain vices. They just have a way to go and change the data, erase their footstep, their footprint in the system. You have, even if it's the super admin, it must be properly audited. All systems must be created with the utmost highest level of audit, that it can't go away with anything without something picking his IP address, picking his MAC address, picking logs of the user that did this, the person he did it on. Everything, the print must be available easily. Those are the ways
what you're saying is very scary, even though it's very beneficial, to all of us, but it's very scary because I can already see how our institutions are not able to do all these things you're talking about. Like there's a lot of constraint, on being able to achieve them because of the next point that I want to ask you. And I know it's going to take a while, so let me just introduce it at this point. We have had an exodus. Maybe it's now Leviticus, that's past exodus, right, of people leaving Nigeria, especially from banking, right? I had that one of the tier 1 banks, a whole unit shut down, whether they all got admission or they got PR at the same time. And everybody, like everybody was in the airport almost at the same time. And that unit was bereft of anybody that knew what they were doing. And I'm wondering, this thing that we're saying on this call, because I'm trying as much as possible to be realistic, why wouldn't they give a contract staff login? Why wouldn't you give maybe the person that is remaining that has not Japan, why wouldn't you give him all the rights and he will have all the, access to everything in the system? So the question I'm asking is, can we solve this talent problem in tech for financial services? Can we solve this talent problem?
Well, the talent problem is a national problem, and it's not just Nigeria, really. It's beyond Nigeria, even in some industries or countries outside Nigeria. Why are they looking for Nigerians in the UK or in Canada? It's also to show up manpower. So it's not a problem of Nigeria, really, but at least it's easy to get our people out of there. But one of the ways to look at this is that I think the real problem we have is that we are not creating as much talent as we are losing them. Awesome. And when you also look at our educational system, you have to do 4 years plus NYSC, and most of our recruitment policy are around, you must not be more than the age of 25, you must have BSc, you must have, so all those things I think we need to relook it as a country. And sometimes they go in Nigeria, the technical college was created to give advantage to some people from GSS3 to say, look, if you can't continue with the regular education, move to the technical college. Some of us will remember that. We can see the technology education in similar manner to say from GSS3, let's somebody be able to go to a similar technical college, just go and learn database administration in the next of your 3 years. Become a DBA. At 18, you are a competent DBA, Oracle, SQL. If you want to do .NET at 18, from GSS3, from 15 years to 18, you're already writing JavaScript, writing it. So just focus on one line. Within that 3 years, you will have a sizable number of inputs into the system in the technology line. We can then begin to export if we want to, and then we need to change so many policies around, oh, no NYSC. You can, of course, reduce how much you pay such class of people. To say, okay, you can't earn $1 million as a developer because you did not go to the university, you do not have NYSC. But at least the guy has got the skill, hire him. That's one of the things I think we can begin to look at the country.
You've made very, very valid points. And I think India has something similar, where they had very young people at some point. I'm sure you have some experience with that in banking. Please, can you shed some light on that?
Yes, I mean, in those days in banking, when they tell you they are sending you an expert from India, you have waited 4 weeks for the expert to come. You see some young guys, maybe about 4 or 6 of them, they walk in and they will then give them, then it is things like team viewer. It's not things that, yeah. They will now give them team viewer or VNC. They will tell you must give them remote access. The real expert is in India. These guys are just graduated from one training school and they are sent down here. In the next 3 years, this guy that you are almost teaching how to do ABCD yourself will now come as an expert back. And for each one of them, there's an extra code, there's a dollar value. Then how they quote is that for junior engineer, you pay maybe $300. If you want a senior engineer, you pay $700. If you want a senior one, you pay $1,000. And they say for this project, we'll give you 5 junior, 3 senior, and then 2 directorate. And that's how they bill us. So why can't we also train some of these young people? Anybody who is 18 can handle anything in the tech industry, whether database programming, networking, whatsoever.
Interesting. Thank you so much. I think we have come, to the end of the questions. I just want to ask you one last thing very quickly. You can respond like in a minute. What is on your innovation wish list for fintech systems in Africa? What kind of problem have you seen that you want to be solved? Like, we shouldn't be dealing with this kind of thing at an industry that is 30 years old and thereabouts.
Well, I think first we should begin to look at ourselves inward in Africa and say, why can't we build certain system for our production? And just this morning, I was listening to what has been done in the PAP system. That's the Pan-African Payment Settlement System. And it's good that it's an indigenous system that Africa is creating. And such kind of a system can be leveraged to also extend the trade within African countries. And we need to begin to look at such system and say, okay, we want to create a blockchain version of this kind of system to have, a robust kind of system. And I've worked with many tech companies now that are big in Nigeria, that the kind of systems they created were so stable that we don't even have to maintain. Sometimes you even forget that those systems are running. And these are guys, young guys in Nigeria. They are company and some of them are still.
Please can you share any good news? So let everybody on the call know. Please, can you share any?
I think in 2017, yes, we were working on a project for agency banking. And that agency banking for FCMB was the first to have card issuance at the agent location, PIN change at the agent location, and also make transaction immediately. And we actually got some people to do this contract from Kenya. But at the end of the day, certain things were missing. Oh, we need these components to interface between Postilion and this system. And we just then, TMAP was still trying to sell something they call Olympus. And we just sat together and say, within your Olympus, you have a connection that can connect to FEP. Why don't we do a POC to make it work like this? And by the time the guy, I know him very well, we still talk now. One young chap from there, barely out of university. And he came, he said, do it. And that system was so stable, the middleware connecting between the agency banking system. These are ISO 8583 systems. ISO is a very complex system to write. You see anybody, this one is not RESTful service. ISO is so very complicated. Before you do key exchange and you do so many things, the bitmap and every other thing. And this company wrote it. It was so stable, fantastic system. So there's no reason why we can't have talents in Africa that are building solutions that stops us from paying millions of dollars, to the other countries out there for us to do better. I look at CBN today unveiling cards. There's no reason why Africa cannot also have a card within the African region to say, okay, this is our own card. So we don't have to spend so much just taking all the big name brands up there. We need to be able to challenge ourselves and within our government be able to agree that our people, now they can do this, we should give them a chance.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Samuel. It has been very enlightening speaking with you.